Welcome back, Freedom Protectors. Hey, today on the Marine Gun Building channel, I'm going to show you how to do a first-time quality combat slide. And I mean everything. How to prep parts, polish parts, install components, how to give her some eyes, give her some glasses, and oil and lube her for first-time quality action. This is a big video, really in-depth, so I'm going to put a timestamp and an index up top. So if you only need to see one piece of this install, you can jump right in it. Are you ready to go pro? Let's go. Alright, welcome back, Freedom Protectors. Today we're going to be doing this 17 slide. Now this is a Brownells configuration with an RMR. I'm going to show you how to prep the slide. We have our OEM parts kit. I'm going to show you how to prep the parts to go into the slide. Just like we did in the frame video, we don't want to just take this stuff and start throwing it in there. So I'm going to go over how we prep the parts for first time quality and then put it in the slide. We have a threaded and fluted 9mm barrel here for our 17. I'm also going to be covering how to install sights in this video. So we've got a set of Steel City Arsenal suppressor height fiber optic sights. And I'm also going to show you how to set it up with the optics. So your slide is 100% ready to go, lock and load. Okay, so we're going to put this stuff aside for a second because we're not going to need that until later. And we'll put the barrel aside as well. And what we're going to take a look now is at our OEM parts kit. So standard Glock OEM parts kit. Dump this all out. Ooh, get that there. All right, so let's kind of see what we got in our parts kit and let's arrange it, okay? So we have our recoil spring assembly. We're going to put that aside. We're going to deal with this first, okay? We have our striker. We have our striker spring. We have our spacer sleeve, so we're going to put those together. And our channel liner is going to go with our striker assembly. And our little two cups, little half cups here that come together that hold the spring underneath the head of our striker. So that's our striker assembly here. We're going to keep that stuff together. We have our extractor plunger and spring and bearing. So these three pieces are going to go together. We're going to keep them right there for now. We then have our extractor, which obviously if you've watched my ejection video, this is a 9mm, so you know that I'll be changing this out. We have our safety plunger and spring. Okay, so these two pieces are going to go together. And we have our back plate. So I'm going to put the back plate aside for now. So before I just go ahead and start assembling these pieces, I want to prep each part. So we have first time quality action. We need to take care of our recoil spring assembly. Okay, so in the video, the squeaky slide video, I talk about, you know, how this makes your slide squeak, doesn't sound good, it's not first time quality. And so you can go ahead and watch that video, but I do this right at the time when I'm prepping the parts and before I put them in the slide so that it's good to go out of the gate. So the first thing I'm going to do though is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to take my buffer, right, my impregnated buffer, and I'm just going to come around these coils, okay? And I want to clean any sharp edges that are on this recoil spring, okay? So, you know, from the factory, these parts are real dirty. You know, they're just, you know, a lot of them are just machined pieces. They don't sit there and polish them, and we want to just make sure that we don't have any burring or anything that's going to cause a hiccup within our weapon, okay? So I just have my little drill master here for this, and I have my impregnated buffer, and I'm just going to come around the coil system just like this, okay? And I'm just going to take off any light burring that's there. Now this isn't taking off material, okay? It's just going to smooth it out a little bit, make it have really good action. So turn this on. And this is all I do. Just go right around it. I mean, you can just feel it, especially if you go around again. It just goes around that much easier. Okay? Just making that surface nice and slick. Now, it's spinning to the right, so I'm always working to the right. Notice I flip the piece when I go to the other side, okay? So you want to keep it moving in the same direction as the Dremel. Okay, flip it back around. you know, go around twice. If you notice anything, you know, sticking up, you can kind of stay in that one spot for a second, see if you can get rid of it. All right? This is all we do. All right. Good. I usually kind of give it a little like this too. All right. And turn it over. A little like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to soak this in some ballistol, right? Again, squeaky slide video. Teach you all about that and why we do that and all that stuff, okay? So I have the ballistol. I'm just doing this so while I set up the rest of the slide, this is getting set up, ready to go. This is the last piece that we're going to install in our slide assembly. So it can kind of just sit here. I give it a little spray, give it a turn, give it a little spray, give it a turn. And then it's in the coils, so what I do is I flip it up and I kind of just move it. You can actually just hear it squeaking right there. Hear that? And then when that gets into the metal, yeah, right, it starts to really squeak, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to push this down and hold. I'm going to give it a spray in there. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Push down and hold. Okay. Work it a couple more times. Yeah, see, no more squeak. Perfect. So we have this spring. So same thing. I have another spring. I'm going to take my impregnated buffer and I'm going to go around the spring just like this. Okay. I always take a look at these springs when they're brand new. I make sure that I don't see any bends in any of the coils. I also make sure that it straightens true. I'm going to go over some pieces with you on this when we put it into the striker because you know, almost everybody assembles this wrong. But I'm making sure that there's no kinks, no bends, no burrs where they snip the end of the coil that could get caught up in that channel at all. So that one looks great. Okay. We also have our plunger here and spring and bearing. So we have another spring. So I'm going to do the same thing with this component. We have our metal components. We're going to have our striker and we're going to have our extractor plunger and we're going to have our safety plunger. Okay, so all these three pieces I want to give a really good polish to. Okay, now with the extractor, we're going to polish the entire thing, the extractor plunger. With the safety plunger, same thing. I'm going to polish this entire piece. Okay, when we get to the striker though, I am going to polish everything but the very, very tip, that firing pin. Okay, that comes through that breech face, bang, right? Strikes our primer. So I'm going to do everything but the tip. Okay, so I'm going to come all the way up, all the way around the head, but we're not going to touch the actual firing pin. Okay, to do this, we are going to follow the same methods that we did in our frame video. I'll put our other little pieces aside. I'm going to get my cardboard. I always polish in a two-step process. Okay, I use flits at the beginning to take off all of the heavy stamping and just kind of dirt and grime that's on these pieces, and then we wipe it all down, and then I go in with the mothers and I fine polish it, get it to look like a mirror, get it nice and smooth, and you know, the results are just phenomenal every time you do that. Okay, so what we're going to do, as again in that frame video, I like to use my Dremel press for this because it allows me to have two hands free while I am polishing, right? Because kind of holding these little pieces and polishing is really, really difficult. Well, with the Dremel press, let me just move the camera up. With the Dremel press, it's really easy. It's locked in there and I can use my hands as necessary to come in here and manipulate the piece just like that. Okay, all I'm going to do is take the flits here. I'm going to put that's more than enough for this project right here. I'm going to put some right there. And I'm going to take my extractor plunger here, and I am going to put a little bit on to the bit itself. Now, I use medium-sized polishers here, medium duty polishers. Okay, I use the spearhead because it allows me to get into all the nook and crannies of the part. Works extremely well. You don't want to use the really loosey goosey felt stuff, even though these are felt, but they're the medium duty. They're really bound tight together, the fibers. Okay, also prevents when you turn it on from stuff going everywhere. Okay, we don't want any of that. So a little bit on there, and then just a little bit I'm going to kind of rub into the surface of the extractor plunger here, just like so, getting the whole thing, every area. You notice I'm not over polishing here. I'm just getting it, you know, to the point that we're going to take off all of the dirt and grime. Okay, I'm on 10 on the Dremel, so you know, nice and slow. It's not about speed. If you think you put too much on, like I think I did, I'm just going to put my hand over it like this, turn it on for a second. All right, we're good to go. So now I'm just going to come in here and look how dirty that gets right away, right? And I'm just going to work the component up and down my bit on the press. You know, I always rave about my Dremel press, but it is just so versatile when you're doing any type of precision work or polishing or anything else. And I mean, the handle will come down. You want to do your pins this way, you can do them that way too. Stay nice and straight. It's got the base plate on there. You can clamp it right down. Okay, so I'm just going to do this with the flits for each piece. That spearhead is so good because I can get right in that nook and cranny. That's where we're going to put our spring on, right? And our spring is just going to fit in there nice and smooth. Have really good action. All right, we'll turn that off. Just wipe this piece down. Again, the flits, we're not doing any fine polishing here yet. That's for the mothers. We're just getting as much of this dirt and grime off our metal pieces as we can. And look how black already that bit is, okay? And so significant improvement already, but we're not done until we're mirror finished. I'm going to take our striker here. Now again, I'm not going to do the tip, okay? I'm only going to stay within this area down here. I don't want to do the tip. So for this, and again, another reason why, you know, having the two hands free, I can kind of cup this so I make sure that I don't get it, all right? All right, keep it on 10. Alright, so just kind of coming along here. You know, our spring is going to sit on here. We've already gone around with the impregnated buffer on the spring. Now it's going to be making contact with nice smooth metal, and it's going to be a really happy striker assembly. That's what we want. Alright, turn that off. We'll wipe this one down. Alright, our last piece is going to be our safety plunger. Okay, this is always real dirty and grimy. Same thing. Just keep repeating this process with the flits. Getting it all ready to go. A little bit there. You want to get the entire safety plunger. Again, you know, using the spearhead. Why? Because I can get right into that hole just like this. Boom. Make it perfect, right? Spearhead is awesome on this Dremel press. Okay. Again, this would be a piece that if you were using one hand is, you know, kind of tough to polish, having the Dremel in one hand and then this little tiny piece in the other, but with the press it just makes it so much easier. You get right into the grooves there, no problem. Right into the hole just like that. Beautiful. Oh my God, so much junk just came out of there. Alright, and I mean, obviously this is such an important piece too. You want better take up. You know, this is a big piece for that. Alright. And look how black. I mean, three little pieces. Completely disgusting. All right, so that's it for the flits, right? I mean, we had a little dime size that we put on the cardboard. That's all we needed. And we'll just clean this up. And now I'm going to repeat the process, only I'm going to be using the Mother's mag and aluminum polish. Everything obviously is in the MGB shop. All my gunsmithing tools, everything you ever see me use is right there. And all of Amazon's top picks. And as you know, I keep telling you, you know, when we do these videos, I don't, this channel is not monetized. I don't want you to watch ads, right? Who wants that? We want to skip to the first time quality stuff. So, you know, the best way you can support the channel, I don't do Patreon as well, but the best way you can support the channel is to use those links. And so not only all the tools there, but all of the best and top rated Amazon EDC gear, gunsmithing gear, safe gear, anything you will need that is related to our love and passion of guns and hunting will be listed there for you to take a look at. Okay, so all I'm going to do here is with the Mother's aluminum polish is I really just kind of drench it, the piece here. Okay, really working it in just like that. I'm going to put some on the bit. So, you know, the Flitz is a little thicker of a polish. You know, this has a little more liquid to it. So you'll know that when we turn the Dremel on, I'm going to put my hand over it so it doesn't splatter everywhere, right? So just like that. All right. And then we just repeat that process. And look how much more it's taken off. Look at, see? You know, the Mother's is fantastic. All right, so that's all set. So now our metal components are all polished. They look beautiful. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to buff them all. So I'm going to show you how I do that. A fine felt wheel here, just a buffing wheel, nothing on it, okay? Because one of the things is when you polish, you want to make sure all the polish is off. Now we sit here with a microfiber towel and we go ahead and we, you know, wipe it off. But, you know, there could be little spots in there that we can't get on any piece. So I just have a little felt wheel. I'm just going to come all the way around and it will take off any excess polish and residue that might still be there. Let me actually move our Dremel press back over here so it's out of our way. And then give you a kind of better view. There we go. Okay. I'm a gun guy. You know, the video, you can see right there, bang, how much of a difference, right? When you use the buffing wheel. You know, I'm a gun guy. I'm not a video guy. You know, I've had to really take my time here and learn the art of video and editing. And, you know, I owe a lot to my 13-year-old son who does most of the editing and has taught me most of what I need to know to get videos out to you. So look at mirroring. That looks absolutely beautiful. Let me bring the light over here so you can actually see it a little closer as it's happening. Beautiful. Look at that piece. Stunning. Mirror finish. Alright, so I'm going to do this to the rest of these parts and then I'm going to clean up my disgusting hands and we'll get back and ready to assemble. Alright, so now we're back. All of our metal components are mirror polished, looking absolutely beautiful. We've already prepped our springs. Everything's first time quality, and our components and our parts are ready to go into our slide. So first, we're going to talk about the striker assembly pieces. We'll put the extractor plunger assembly aside, and we'll put our extractor and our safety plunger aside. Okay, so here we have the channel liner. Okay, this is going to go into the slide. We have our striker again with our spacer sleeve. We have our spring and we have spring cups. So we're going to tackle the channel liner first. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to push this aside for a second. The channel liner sits right down inside this hole, all the way down into the channel, and it's going to sit right in here, just like this. Now this is an important component. I'm going to get a striker that's already assembled. So what happens here, I'm going to take this striker here and I'm going to put it in. Right here is our breech face, right? And when we pull the trigger, the firing pin comes through, bang, right? Bang, just like that. And so understand that this channel liner is in here and it's holding that right in place so it's not rattling around, and it comes right through that breech face, sending that bullet and killing the target. Okay, so important piece. A couple things about this piece though. First, it's got a beveled end that is always really difficult to see, but it's got a little lip on one side, and then on the other side it's flat, and it always comes with this burr that's attached to it, okay? And we need to remove that. When you buy an aftermarket slide, a big question that people always have is, does my slide already have a channel liner in there? And you know, it's really difficult to look down in there, especially black, and see if there's already a channel liner installed, okay? And so I have a little hack for that on how we decide if it does. So on this 19 slide here, this actually has a channel liner installed, okay? This one, this is a Brownell slide. It does not come with one, okay? But I'm going to take a Dunkin' Donut straw right here. This is the large Dunkin' Donut straw, and you can see I do have one in here. If I put it down the channel, I can't go, okay? And that's because there is a channel liner installed in there, preventing the large straw from going in. Okay, it's got to be a large, can't be a small. This is the same size as your channel liner. So if I take a striker here, you can see it's perfect, okay? Same stuff, right? Up against the channel liner, same thing. All right, so in this case with this 19, I have one in, I can't go in. But if you look at it here on the 17, see how I can go all the way down? No problems, okay? This does not have one in. Now with that said, I want you to understand that, so this is an Alpha Marksman slide, right? I mean, great slides, fantastic, and they install a channel liner for you when they send you their slide. The problem is that they leave that burr in and, you know, don't assemble it correctly, right? So while it has a channel liner in it, and that's wonderful, the burr is still there. They didn't trim it. And so now what this means with a slide that actually comes with one, but it's got the channel liner with the burr, is I have to go in there, pull that one out, and put another one back in. So, you know, it's kind of like, hey, they're trying to do a customer favor by putting the channel liner in for you, but at the same time, now I'm forced to do more work, so I got to take it out and, you know, put a new one in and correct the fact. Now, I don't mean to beat up you know, Alpha too much, but this is the third slide I have, and the same problem with all three. Okay, so they need to do some education around how to install channel liners. Maybe you can point your employees to this video. With that said, let's go back to where we are here, okay? So important piece, necessary piece, bevel side, and we have a burr, you know, flat side with a burr, okay? The beveled side is going to go down first, okay? That's important. We also need a specialty tool in order to do that. Now, when you get a specialty, you don't have a choice here, okay? I mean, there's lots of hacks around it, but let me tell you, it's a pain in the neck, all right? You're better off just getting yourself the right tool to do this job. I always say, you know, when it comes to slide assembly, there's two tools that you must have that you just don't want to mess around with, right? One is a good channel liner install tool, and the other is a good sight tool, and we'll talk about that when we get to the sights, okay? And so with the channel liner tool, basically you just put the channel liner in there, and so it's machined to fit the channel liner and then stop and then help you place it all the way down. Now, you know, if you're on a budget and you don't need, you know, you're getting a slide that doesn't have a channel liner in it, you know, you just get a cheapie like this, very inexpensive. They're on the shop, okay? But, you know, if you're going to go a little bit more advanced, you kind of need to up your game to a dual channel liner type tool where one side is for install and the other side is for removal, okay? So in the case of this 19, where that burr was in there, I'm gonna have to use this end to go in, thread it in, and pull it out, okay? Now you can use a bolt from Home Depot and stuff like that too, okay? But depending on how much you're going to do with building, really depends on the kind of tools that you're going to purchase and buy. But when it comes to this job here, at a minimum, you're going to need to spend just a few dollars. I don't recall what they are off the top of my head, but they're under 10 bucks for this. And as a matter of fact, I'll get to it in a minute, but another good deal that's up there is this dual. You'll always see me use a Glock tool, but then a front sight tool here, okay? This is very, very important when we're doing our front sights, all right, to have these two tools, and these are under 10 bucks too, okay? But we'll get to that after. So with the channel liner here, we got to get rid of this big burr that's here. I mean, that's no good. That's disgusting. So pretty simple. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take an X-Acto knife here, and I'm just going to trim it off, okay? That's it. So I'm just going to come right along the side there and get rid of it. Easy breezy, right? Nothing to it. So that's done. Now I'm ready to install the channel liner, okay? So I'm going to take my channel liner tool and I'm going to place it on, and then I'm going to put it in. And the question might be asking, well, how far down does it need to go? And so, there's kind of two schools of thought on it. The first is you can see that it, the tool kind of stops before the end of the channel liner, right? So as you're going down, some are a little longer, you'll actually hear the tool hit the metal at the end. It'll make a different sound, telling you that you are at the end of the road and the channel liner is fully installed. Some don't have that feature, okay? So if we put in this here, like so, and I come and I just mark this, okay, that's the channel liner. That's this little U right here. Well, so what does that mean? Well, that means on your channel liner tool, if we're nice and even, right, your channel liner tool, if you take a look at this here, see if we can do this on camera. If we take a look at it, it's that U is ending, or starting, excuse me, right where the channel tool bevels, okay? That means I am going to be correct when the bevel portion of this tool hits the U. Then I'm going to be completely down, okay? Because one of the things is you can't just sit here and say bang and stop banging on this down, because again, this is pressure, and if I hit this too hard, it's going to bend all this in the front, and it's not going to keep my firing pin straight, okay? So just a quick little tip on how to kind of measure visually where you're at and where you're going to be fully installed, okay? Dunkin' Donuts straw, large straw, right? What a fantastic little method. All right, so I'm going to take this tool here and I'm going to line up my channel liner. As soon as I hit this area right here where the thickness changes on the U, I know I'm going to be fully flush because we measured it ahead of time, okay? So I'm just going to take this, right? Just like little light taps, no big deal. Now if we take a look at the channel liner, that U is right there, and I'm exactly where that is, so I'm good. And I'm just going to give this some twists, and it will come right out for us, okay? Bang. All right, channel liner, 100% first time quality installed. Nice and easy, okay? Took our time and did it right. All right, so the channel liner is done. Now we got to do our striker assembly. So I'm going to bring a block. I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do this. So I'm also going to bring a Glock operator tool. This is another tool that I use specifically for this project, but it also has the 3/32 Glock punch on it, which is also convenient. Okay, we got our striker, we've got our spring, we've got our cups, and we've got our sleeve. Okay, and so what we're going to do is we're going to take our striker and we're going to take our sleeve. Okay, you're going to put the striker into the sleeve and pull it through. Then our spring is going to go on top of the rod like this, and these cups are going to come into the spring and hold the spring tension under the head. Okay, so taking again a look at one that's assembled, this is what it's going to look like, right? Our rod just came through the spacer sleeve like that. We put the spring over, then we're going to pull the spring down, and those cups are going to lock it under the head. So I'm going to just change position of the camera so that we can have a nice close-up of this process. All right, I changed my mind for a second because I want to go over some things with the spring first before I move cameras around, okay? Because I'm detailed, and you know I am dedicated to making sure that you have all of the information you need for a first-time quality result, okay? So I just want to talk to you really quick about springs, because you know what? While I can show you how to assemble this, probably like dozens of videos on YouTube show you, the reality is they don't explain it correctly. And I gotta be honest with you, every single install video that I have watched, they have done it wrong. Okay, I'm not touting myself, trust me. I just want you to have a first-time quality product, and I don't want you to be in a position where your gun doesn't work. Okay, so for a spring here, springs systems either run in a right-facing coil, in other words, the coils are turning to the right, or a left-facing system, okay? This happens to be a right-facing coil system. Now, I can tell that because the springs, one on the bottom is cut, one on the top is cut. The coil is coming around, and then it's cut, okay? Now, that's important for one reason. We need to know where this top cut happened. In other words, did that top cut happen, you know, a quarter away around the coil? So is it only a quarter of a coil? Is it a half a coil? Is it 3/4 of a coil? Right? How much did it go around before they cut the coil? Now, the way we tell that is if we get to the bottom cut and we look at the bottom cut and we point the bottom cut to the 12 o'clock position. Okay, then we look at the top and we say, okay, here's the 12 o'clock position. Here's 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock. This particular spring is cut at 9 o'clock, all right? So that means that that coil comes 3/4 of the way around before they snip it, okay? Now, this is important because when we actually put this on our striker rod, so this is how it's going to go into the gun, just like this, okay? When we put this on, we want to make sure that that cut right here, right, where they cut it at the 9 o'clock position, is going to be either on the bottom or at the 12 o'clock position. So that cut, right, where it came around 3/4 is either going to be at the 12 o'clock position here or at the 6 o'clock position here, okay? Now, why? All right, so look, this is an example of a firing pin and spring where somebody put this on, okay? Well, that somebody is me because I like to demonstrate why, okay? You have to understand that these two cups, these two spring cups, come together, right, as one unit, which means what? Which means there's going to be a seam. Okay, now there is a ton of tension, right, for the deflection of how this spring works on these spring cups. And what happens is if you put the seam like it is on this one right on where that cut is, okay, that very weak point, because that was at the 9 o'clock position to the 12 o'clock position, is the weakest point of the spring because there's not a full coil. They put the seam right there. This is going to, you know, it's going to give way. All right, it's not a first-time quality piece. So when we put this on the rod here, and we go ahead and install our spring cups, what we want to do again is keep that cut either at the 12 o'clock position or the 6 o'clock position. Okay, now when we do that, we want to make sure that the seam isn't on that piece. So the seam is going to be easy for us to figure out, because we're going to put a spring cup on the bottom and on the top, which is going to make our seam at the 3 o'clock position and the 9 o'clock position, which is going to give full coverage. So I'm just going to take it off the rod so we can see here. If I put this at the 12 o'clock position, just for demonstration purposes, when I put it in, if I put it in like this, it's going to be right on the seam. That's no good. But if I do it the other way, and I have the seam at the 3 and the 9, now I've got full coverage over that weak point, okay? And that's what we want. So you can either do 9 and 3 or 10 and 4, all right? I know that's probably a little confusing, but as we, put this on, I'll explain that some more, okay? So now, getting the spring onto the rod and then trying to put these spring cups in, you need 10 hands to do it, okay? So there's ways that people have come up with. Probably the biggest is to use a slide. So I'll just put the camera up a little bit like this. And so we have the hole of our channel liner, okay? And what they do is, they take where the channel liner is, right? They put this in the hole, and then this, stops the rod from moving down. Bring the camera up a minute like this. And then go ahead and use the spring and push it down, right? So it helps them, okay? But here I'm still trying to balance, the slide, and now I have to have another fingers to kind of go in there and get those cups in. And, it's not that it doesn't work. It's a pretty, genius method, but it does require you to have a flat slide, right? If you have any type of bullnose slide, it's going to be all over the place, and that's no good. And you have to be on a surface that's not going to mar the front of the slide. So that's just one way you can do it, okay? It's just not how I'm going to do it, all right? I have, again, I'm going to use a specialty tool to do it, but I realize that you might not have a Glock operated tool. So if you have just your bench block, this is yet another way that you can do it. You can, put the rod into the spacer sleeve like this, and then just drop it in the hole, and it kind of sticks up on an angle like that. And now I can work and do what I need to do. Okay. So now remember, this is down, right? And this side is up, right? Because it's like this, bang, right? So it's like, if I put it in here like this, that's how that is, okay? So now I want to pay attention to where my cut is, which is right there, okay? So if I'm going to put it in the 6 o'clock position, I just put it down like that, and there it is. Now, I don't want you to worry too much about getting it off, from the jump here, pushing this in and making sure that's the right way, because the reality is that it's a lot easier once it's on. We can adjust it. So where's that other one? So you know how this one was wrong? Let me move here. This is what I'm trying to tell you. I can just pull down on these springs, and I can twist these cups into position just like that. Okay, so don't worry about getting it right on the gate. Worry about getting, these little spring cuts seated properly. So one is going to come here in the front, right, so that the seam is at the 9 on this side, the 3 on that side, okay? So I'm going to take the spring cup here, all right? I'm going to pull down. I'm just going to drop it right into place, all right? Oh, so I just take it and drop it right in. Take the other one and drop it right in. So now you can see that they're in. Just pinch it and let it come back up to the striker. Okay? So then check to make sure, right? So here we are. I'm down, and our seam is beautiful right there on the square portion, right? 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock. So that's a good to go first time quality piece. And again, like I showed you, don't worry if you don't get them seated absolutely 100%, because you can pull it down and kind of just move it around easier, okay? So that's how you do it with a block. I'll show you how to do it with a Glock operator tool as well. So with the Glock operator tool, it has some openings for your spring to fit in here, like so. Okay, so you just come down a couple coils and you place your spring in. Okay, then you take your rod with your spacer sleeve and you push it in to the tool through the spring and seat it down like that. Okay, so now once that's in, then what we're going to do is we're going to push this up, and I'm going to put it into the little notch that's there, and that's going to hold the spring under tension, and it's going to expose the head of the striker, and it's going to allow me to, you know, place the cups a lot more easy. Okay, so I'm just going to come up and push this to the right, and then it seats in there like that, and now I have more control here, okay, because I don't have my fingers holding down the spring on tension, and I can go ahead and place the cups directly into the system like that, okay, with full control. You know, that's the wonderful part about this little tool, is I have total control here. Okay, so spring cups get seated in. Okay, nice. I orient them any way I want. You know, I don't have any pressure on my fingers. Nice and easy. Okay, and then once I have them where I'm set, all right, I'm just gonna flip this over. The tension's gonna pull it down just like that. Okay, and then I just pull it out of the tool, and I am good to go. Okay, so cool little tool. If you want a specialty tool, that's also in the shop for you to get. All right, so strikers are done. Striker assembly's done. Now let's talk about our extractor plunger, the spring, and the bearing. All right, so for the extractor plunger and our spring, and this is a loaded chamber indicator bearing. Now I'm going to show you how to assemble this, but I said earlier that I'm going to change this out to a non-loaded chamber indicator bearing, a non-LCI, with a different spring. Okay, and again, I'm showing you this because I don't want to confuse you. I'm just going to show you how to do the OEM piece here, but if you have a 9mm and 40 cal, you absolutely positively have to watch the ejection and extraction video. I will put that as an end screen at the end of this video for you to check out. Okay, but if you're using anything else, you know, using a loaded chamber indicator, spring and bearing with your extractor plunger, absolutely positively no problems. You'll be good to go. Okay, so basically what we do is we just take our extractor plunger and we put it down. We take the spring, you're just going to hear it click in as I push down, just like that. Okay, and then you're going to take your bearing, and same thing, you're just going to put it on top, and you're going to push down, and it will click in place. There it is. Okay, you just want to make sure it's fully seated all the way to the coil. It's seated completely. You know, I've seen plenty of times where they don't seat this completely, either on the plunger or here, and then they have all sorts of issues around extraction. Okay. All right, so that is done. So we have our striker, we have our plunger. All right, so the safety plunger now and spring. So to install this, all you do is you hold the safety plunger, you get the spring, you put it in the hole, and then I'm going to press in with the spring, and I'm going to turn towards me. Okay, and you should hear it click into place right away, just like that. Okay, so in and there. Now when you turn it upside down, it should stay in place. If it falls out, it's no good. Do not put it into the slide. Okay, now you might be here, let me just take it out. You might be here and you might be wrestling with this, right? Trying to put it in, turn it towards you, and it's not clicking in. Okay, in those instances, you know, listen, I don't want you to go crazy and bend the spring and, you know, now have to stop a build over seriously a 5-cent spring. Okay, so, you know, give it a couple tries until you get used to it. Come in, towards you, and it's in. I mean, I'm not turning almost at all towards me. I'm kind of just pivoting it, and it stays in, okay? But if you're having too many issues, you know, I was a newbie once, you know, way back when too. This is what you do to make sure it stays in. You just put the safety plunger upside down, put the spring in, get your Glock tool, okay, or a 3/32 punch, same thing, okay, and come down the center of the spring, and you're just going to push down into the safety plunger, okay, and it's going to seat. And keeping my finger as a guide, because if you slip, guess what? Spring is going into the abyss. Okay, I hear it snap in just like that, and then I'm going to pull the tool out, okay, and then it will be in. You'll be good to go. I'm going to take my safety plunger, the spring is held in place, and I'm going to drop it into the hole just like that. I'm going to put my thumb over it just for now. Alright, so I'm just going to hold it in place. I'm not putting any pressure on it right this minute, because I just want to show you the extractor. So the extractor can only go in one way, alright, but your dipped end, your beveled end, is going to face towards the front of the gun just like this, okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop it in just like that. Now, I'm going to say this again. There is no way in hell that you'll ever catch MGB with a junk dib MIM extractor in his gun. I am only doing this to show you from an OEM assembly perspective, okay? But if you have a 9mm 40 cal, again, you've got to watch the ejection and extraction video. I mean, I just can't preach that enough, all right? So now I just have my finger over this. I'm going to drop this into place, okay? I'm going to press down, and I'm going to feel it lock in, okay? And once I let go, it's in place, and you are good to go. Only you're not good to go because you need to change that shit like pronto. All right, any other caliber, you're fine. So that's that. So now, let me move the camera up a little bit here. Now that that's done, we have our plunger, and we have our beautiful striker assembly that we did. So I'm going to be using this one. I know we spent all our time polishing that other one nice, okay, but I'm using my own here that I want to use. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this plunger with the metal end facing down, and we are going to put it into this hole right here, okay? So we're going to put the plunger right into that hole, metal end facing down, just like that, okay? I'm going to take the striker, okay, and I'm going to put it down into the channel, just like so, easy breezy, boom. Just like that, and it's going to sit in, right? You should have and feel some action here on it, okay? Well, now we need to put our back plate on. So with the back plate, if we take a look at the back plate, right, it's got the same shape and outline indented as what? As our spacer sleeve, right? So if we take a look, that's exactly how we need that to line up, okay? Well, it's not just going to go on, because we got to put some pressure and push that down. So I'm going to stand this up, and I'm going to adjust this other camera. All right, so now we're ready to put this back plate on, okay? So what I do is I just kind of line it up where I want it to be, and I put my thumb on it just like that, right? Because if it gets all crooked, it's really difficult to get out. Now, what we need to do is we need to push this striker assembly down, sneak it on a little bit, and then push the extractor plunger down and seat it all the way, okay? And so a lot of times what people do is they get their, you know, punch, and they're trying to push this down, but this is a small tool, and it can be kind of difficult to, you know, push that down with a Glock tool. So what I do is I use the channel liner tool, right? It's nice and thick, and what I do is I just kind of come up into this corner because it's rounded and fits in there nice and good, and all I do is I just push down, and it seats right away, okay? And then I just pull it out, okay? Then you can use the Glock tool for the small one. All right, the Glock tool for the small one, and then in. See, the small one's not bad because if you're already lined up and you're not crooked, you'll be good to go for the small one, all right? But if you're not, forget it. It's a nightmare, okay? And I push it, snap it into place just like so. And now we have pretty much an assembled slide. All right, Freedom Protectors, so now our girl is all set. She's got all of her internal components in. She's looking nice and sweet with that first-time quality look. But we need to help her see, right? So she needs that front post, she needs the rear sight, and we're going to give her an optic. And then once we do that, we'll put the barrel in, the recoil spring, and I'll show you how to oil her and lube her up so she is ready to meet her man. All right, so we're going to put the optic aside for now, and we're going to work on the front post and our rear sight. So as I said earlier, these are the suppressor height fiber optic sights by Steel City Arsenal. It really doesn't matter what kind of sights you go with, it's all pretty much the same install. All right, so we got the sights out here. What we're going to do, just going to get a pair of scissors here, and we're going to go ahead and cut these open, pour it out. Okay, so it comes with extra fiber optics, so we're just going to put that over to the side. Here's our two pieces we need to put in. Now for this, I'm going to get a little piece of cardboard over here because we are going to use some Loctite with this, which if I can find where it is, here it is right here, right? An organized workspace is a workspace of quality, as I always say. It's in a red too, but it's blue Loctite. So that's what we're going to be using to go ahead and put these down. Now, you know, there's always a lot of discussion about what type of Loctite, blue Loctite, red Loctite, super glue, so on and so forth, okay? The reality is that I always use blue, but I've used red plenty of times, and I have seen I have seen sites fail with both in my lifetime, okay? But for the most part, you know, blue is more than enough. Blue is a medium duty. The red is high strength. If you ever have to remove anything, though, red is a lot harder to remove. You got to heat it up with a hair dryer to take it off, then use some Goo Gone to clean up any of the residue. We'll talk about the front post first, and then we'll get to the rear. Okay. So with the front, it's got a little screw right here, and this needs to come off. You take the tool here, you just put it on. Locks right into place. I mean, it's made to fit the screw, okay? And we just unscrew, okay? And then we don't lose our screws. That's important. We can take it, put it in. We can see, let me put this light down and in there, nice and bright for you. You can see that's exactly what our screw needs to go into. Now, look. The truth of the matter is, we just talked about Loctite for a second, right? If you put this in without Loctite, Freedom Protector, I'm guaranteeing you that thing is going to come flying off and you're going to lose it, okay? You're going to lose the screw and possibly even the sight, okay? So, you know, Loctite for a front post here is pretty much non-negotiable, all right? So, how we're going to do that is, I'm just going to leave it on there for a second. We're going to put it onto the screw and then from the tool into the sight and lock it down. Okay, fairly simple. So you take your bottle of, or tube in this instance, of Loctite, give it a good shake. Okay, come over here, and I'm just going to put a dab on the screw itself. So I'm going to put it in like this. And I'm going to do just like that. Just a dab. That's it. That's all you need. Nothing big, okay? Then, we'll come over here, get you in the light. Line up my post. Perfect. Okay? There's the hole. Here's the screw. And I'm just going to come right down in there, put it into the hole, and tighten it down. Probably even give you this angle right here so you can see it coming in, right? So, once you're in, nice and tight, Loctite it down. So what I do is I go hand tight and then just maybe an eighth of a turn more, okay? Because you don't want to strip the screw. All right, and there it is. She's in there nice and good, okay? You can see that the Loctite we put on the tip, right, followed the threads all the way down. We got a little bit right there. So we can just go ahead and kind of wipe the little excess that's there right off, because it is sticky, right? But that's good to go. Perfect. All right, so our front sight is on. Now listen, with this, you have to let it set up for 24 hours, okay? We're gonna actually use this when we do the optic as well, okay? But you can't fire this for a whole day, okay? And as a matter of fact, they say a day. I usually pre-plan ahead that I'll do this if I know I'm gonna go to the range like on a Friday. I'll usually do it like at the beginning of the week, okay? That way, you know, I know it's nice and solid and it's in there, okay? So that's the front. Now we need to talk about our rear sight. Sight pusher here is probably, I would say, the best value on the market. And by that, what I mean is, you know, listen, I don't like cheap. I like inexpensive but quality, right? I call that value. And so this Vism here, in my opinion, is one of the best valued tools on the market, okay? If you're going to do any type of building, you're going to need a sight pusher, period, okay? Now look, if you're only going to do one build here and you don't think that you're going to do a whole lot more, which by the way is false, because you're going to become an addict like the rest of us, okay? Once you do one, forget it. It's like tattoos, cigarettes, and alcohol and gambling. You're screwed, okay? You're going to do more. But if you're like, no, I'm not, you know, this is actually right on sale right now for $38, which is the cheapest I have ever seen it, which is fantastic because, you know, I have a big pro wheeler one that's, I mean, cost me I want to say 170 at the time, and then you need all sorts of attachments for and everything else. But this one here, really, I mean, look, I beat the shit out of it, right? I mean, I've done so many with this. I've had to change a couple of parts here and there over the years, but I mean, literally, I'm in the hundreds with this one, and it is just been a fantastic tool for such a valued price, okay? But my point there was that if you don't, you know, if you're on a budget, I got you, man. You know, $40 is $40, right? And you don't have it. Most times, if you go to your local gun store, you know, they'll definitely do a sight install for you for under $20. I mean, almost all of them. And I would even say that a large portion of them, if you have a relationship with them already, they'll do it for you for free. I mean, you know, gun stores are, you know, getting customers in the door is everything for them. You know, they got such competition with the internet that I'm sure if you go in and just buy a box of ammunition and make some friends with some fellow gun lovers, they'd be happy to take care of it for you, okay? But if you have a sight pusher, this is exactly how you do a rear sight. So with this particular system, there's a couple universal ones, but with this particular system, you put some shoes in. So I have flat shoes. It comes with angled shoes, but this is Glock, so we're going to use flat shoes. It's got a bottom shelf here that let me just take this out for a second, that your slide is going to go into. It's going to sit on the bottom shelf. I'm going to move the top up. Okay. It's going to sit on the bottom shelf just like this, okay? And so then what happens is these come in and clamp, right? You want to line it up to where your dovetail is, because this side is going to do what? It's going to push us to the left or to the right. So, you know, it's not only for putting them on, but also taking them off. So what you have to do is you have to adjust your bottom plate here to kind of be where you want to be to push out to the left or to the right, have enough clearance. So this is pretty close, except that these are suppressor height sights, so they're kind of curved. I'm going to go ahead and kind of just test it here. So you want to be in the center and you want to be as flat on the shelf as possible, okay? I need to tighten these bad boys up. on the left and the right, just like so, okay? Making sure that you have enough clearance. As you see, I'm right where I need to be there, okay, to get it on or to get it off. All right, I'm going to come in from the left side, so I'm going to kind of move it like right here. And then on the top, you would push it down. So that's kind of how that works, okay? And then this keeps it in place. It keeps it nice and sturdy, all right? And then this goes in here. Like I said, I've, you know, taken off stuff that this really shouldn't have been used to be taking sights off with. But it has done its job, okay? All right, so that's how that's going to work. So I'm going to keep this kind of way over here because I'm going to put the sight on next, right after I measure it. So a lot of times what people do is they put the sight in, they're trying to measure this. I actually like to measure it exactly where I want beforehand. That way I can just loosen these, put this up, sneak it out. I'm already where I need to be with the shelf, put the sight on, and put it in. So that's what we're going to do. All right, so that's ready to go for us. Before I put it in, I want to make sure that I can get about halfway across, okay? Because the last thing you want to do here is get stuck, okay? So here I can see I'm not, I won't even say half. I say a good solid third of the way across, okay? And I'm not there, all right? So what I'm going to do is right here, we're going to do a little bit of filing. I turned it upside down because it goes on like that. I'm going to turn it upside down and I'm going to put the file here and I'm going to come that way. Now why? Well, because that's the direction it's going on, all right? So I want to follow that. Do it a couple times and then you give it another little test fit. See how you're doing. Okay, good. All right? And so you just repeat this process nice and gentle, taking your time until you're exactly where you need to be. We should be good there. Let's see. So, yeah. So we're a good third of the way on. Actually, probably even a little more, right? Probably about 40%. So we're good there. We're plenty to go on. Before we put this in and push it on, I'm just going to take my cardboard right here for a second. And I'm just going to take a little bit of oil. All right, whatever oil you have, it doesn't matter, okay? Whatever oil you got. And I'm just going to place a little bit right in the channel so that when we push it on, it's going to be nice and lubricated. Get it in there nice and lubed up for us, okay? Just going to make that process so much easier. That one little extra step. All right, so we're going to get our girl here. I'm going to line her up. She's good to go. Get our sight pusher. Let me move the camera back just a little bit. Right here. Gonna push this through. All right, you see how I lined all that up earlier and how it's perfect now? Exactly what you want to do there, Freedom Protector, okay? So I'm gonna make contact here on the left and on the right. Okay, good. We'll hold her down with our top brace. Okay, she's nice and flush. She's good to go. All right, we'll get our trusted block that I love so much. Give us a little bit of height so we have a straight shot on it and the camera's not pointing down. What we're going to do now is we're just going to push it on. I'm going to turn this and push it on. And so I'm not going to actually use this. One of the great things about this tool is that you can use a ratchet to, you know, crank it on, okay? This one, the Steel City Arsenal sights are really good, especially after you file them down. They go on pretty easy. But if you start to struggle, you know, you just switch to a ratchet and you're good to go, all right? So we're going to crank this on, try to line it up as best as we can, and then we'll take some measurements to make sure we're right where we need to be, okay? So you see how easy this is? Nice and simple. Just goes straight on. The biggest thing that you have to watch for when you do sights is if you're not locked in and you start to see any of the side, especially the side you're pulling from, raising up, okay? Like it's getting tilted and out of place. So that's really what you're watching also while you're putting this on, that there's no raising. Everything is staying nice and flat. Just about there. Maybe a quarter more turn, and I think we'll be good. So relieve the pressure from the top, okay? Then relieve the pressure from this side, and it's gonna come out a lot easier. I'll just do that, right? Give us a relief of that pressure, and then we can take it out. All right, so after you confirm everything is lined up and looking good, which this looks fantastic, we need to go ahead, because this is suppressor height sights, right? We need to lock down the pin. So you just take the Allen wrench that comes with suppressor height sights and you tighten it down. And, you know, we follow the same thing. We kind of go all the way down to a hand tight, and then we just do 1/8 of a turn, and we're good to go with that. Perfect. Okay, perfect. All right, beautiful sights. Nice. Perfect. Okay, so now we need to do the optic. So we're going to clean this up here. We're going to get our Holosun, all right, your 507C or whatever optic you have. When they say RMR cut, ruggedized mini reflex sight, that's what RMR stands for, they are referring to Trijicon, okay? But Holosun, as you know, is a fraction of the cost. Trijicon is great, don't get me wrong. They're fantastic sights, fantastic optics. However, they're very expensive, okay? So Holosun is what we're going to use here on this build. We have some little screws. I'm going to tell you right now that the screws that usually come with an optic almost never fit your slide. So when you order a slide, wherever you order it from, make sure you save the screws for that. And actually, I always carry an extra set of screws in my bag when I'm at the range, just in case I lose one, which you shouldn't, but I always keep it as a backup. And look, it says, what does it say? Experienced gunsmith installation recommended. That's you, Freedom Protector. You are now becoming an experienced gunsmith. Okay, so with the Holosun, what happens here is, the other thing too is it comes with two tools. It comes with this tool here, which is to do all of your adjustments, okay? And it's got two prongs, and I'll show you, because the battery in the bottom, you put the two prongs in, you turn it, and that's how you get to the battery, okay? We're going to take our little Torx key that they send, okay, and we're going to remove these two screws, because this optic is on a riser, okay? So if you're going to put this on anything with a Picatinny rail, this is what that riser is for. We're not doing that because, we have our slide cut for it. So what we're going to do is just take these screws out, back them out, and take it off of the riser. All right, so we take them off the riser and then just put them back in, because again, then you'll be at Home Depot or Lowe's trying to figure out what kind of little screws do they have and do they fit, and that's just a pain in the neck. So I just put them back in, and I put the riser back in the box. Okay, perfect. Now, like I said, the screws, I already know that they're not going to fit, so I'm going to put those aside. So basically, what happens here, as I was telling you with the battery, is it's got two prongs on the tool that they send you, okay? And those two prongs line up in here, just like so, and then you just turn this off, and then you can get to the battery, okay? And then again, it has the key to do our windage and elevation. So in other words, this is little thing you don't want to lose. So one of the things that I do, and I'll do a video someday on it, we'll get to it, is my range bag setup. I have, just a key ring with an extendable cord on it, and I have all my little tools that the different weapons I have need, and they're on that key ring, and then I'm always with it, and I don't lose it. It's attached to my range bag, okay? But we're going to put this aside for now. because what we need to do, we need to drop this on into place just like that, and we need to just put 2 screws in, and I mean, you're done. It's that simple. You know, obviously you need to sight it in, but as far as the installation procedure, I mean, these things are just so easy to do. They're straightforward. Okay, drops right onto your prongs there, and we're going to put the 2 screws in. Before you put the screws in, okay, I got this other blank slide so I can show you something, because typically we would do this before we assemble everything. With these screws, a lot of the companies still haven't caught up. You know, some have, some haven't. But if they're the same size, they're both long, that's going to be no good. You're going to have to grind down one of the screws for the right-hand side, because the screw is too long and it's going to catch the extractor plunger, okay? And so again, you know, some companies, they send you one long, one short, the short one for the right hand side, but a lot of them haven't caught up to the fact that that is actually occurring, okay? So if you're in the situation where you got 2 screws that are the same length, they're both long, we've got to take one and we've got to grind one down. And actually, let me show you what I mean. Let me grab a plunger. So here's an extractor plunger, okay? And what happens is, as you know, because we just assembled, this sits in here like that, okay? And the screws, because they're too long, what will happen is it will get caught on your extractor plunger, okay? Now, if you had assembled, like, again, we're doing it methodically here in the video, but if you had assembled and then went ahead and we just put this in to screw down our optic, what's going to happen is your extractor plunger is going to get caught up as you cycle, and you're going to have all sorts of ejection issues, and obviously we don't want any of that nonsense, right? So, well, my little screw doesn't want to go in here, so there we go. So let me show you what I mean. I'm going to just tighten this down, right? So we're pretending the optic's on right now and our extractor plunger is in, and what you'll see is that it won't come out, right? It's going to get hung up. It's stuck, all right? And so as this gun is cycling, again, it's going to get hung up. You're going to have extracting issues. So what we need to do is we need to grind just about 2 threads. That's about all you're going to need to do here on a little screw, okay? Well, how do we do that? So, you know, look, I mean, taking a little screw like this with a grinding bit of the Dremel, not really efficient, okay? So I'll show you what I do here. This is a 440 by half screw, okay? And I always keep, you know, this stuff here at Home Depot's like 50 cents. I'll actually throw a link with the rest of the Amazon products if you want to just pick them up, okay? But they're just screws and nuts. And so what I do is I take the frame, and right in your magwell hole here, what I do is I put this in just like so, okay? And then I take one of my 440 by halves and I put the nut on, okay? Now this is doing 2 things for me right here, okay? The first thing that it's doing, I'm just going to line it up so 2 threads are showing just like that. So this does 2 things. Number one, I can now come in here with my Dremel and my grinding stone and take off those 2 threads much easier than if I was trying to pinch it and hold it, or even trying to put that in a vise is a nightmare. You know, you see some people try to use pliers and go like this. Oh, that's too much work. So this gives me a nice, the nice ability to keep it just like this and go ahead and just grind off those 2 little threads, because we don't need much. We just need to make sure that we have enough clearance for that extractor plunger. Now that's one thing it does, but the second thing, and probably the most important thing it's going to do for us, is it's going to protect our starting thread. So remember, we're sitting here, we're going to grind off 2 threads. Well, if you don't have anything to protect that, you're going to run into a situation where you could burr up your starting thread. So now when we go to put it in, it's not going to start appropriately. The nut here is going to protect those threads because we don't want to ruin those. So as I grind down, I'm going to grind down there, and the nut, again, protecting our starting thread so we don't have any more issues, don't have to do any filing, anything like that. So I'm just going to take the Dremel. Now you can use whatever grinding stone you have in your Dremel kit. I mean, some come with orange, some come with pink, some come with green. They'll all do the job efficiently, okay? So just going to turn this on and bang this out. All right, so that's all she wrote. We'll turn this off. Okay, now we took off those 2 threads. We're good to go. Okay, we'll just take this off. I'll put this stuff away and we'll just throw this in. Put our Loctite on, we'll be good to go. So now we got the optic just sitting on there. We're gonna just put our 2 screws in with some Loctite and we're good to go. Now the thing is that these screws are tiny, they fit exactly into those posts, right? So getting them in there, getting them started, you know, can be challenging at times, okay? One of the things that I keep on my bench are magnets, okay? So these little magnets here, I always keep them, and by the way, one of the probably greatest uses I have for magnets, other than what I'm going to show you here with tools, is I put some 3M tape on these, and I mount them underneath my safe shelves, and then I use that to hold all my magazines. So all my magazines aren't sitting on shelves; they're locked underneath the shelves via magnets. And these are, you know, $1.50 at your hardware store. Okay, very easy to do, really good. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually take this and I'm going to magnetize this tool a little bit. Okay, so just, you know, put it on the magnet. That way, what? You know, I got to get in there, right? I kind of got deep, shallow, one shot to get in there. I'm going to have thread locker on. I don't want it all over the place. And then then I now have a magnetized tool, okay, to help me do that install. So I'm going to just put it in place. And it's the same thing. I'm going to put a little drop right on top here. And then we're just going to screw it right in. Pretty easy, right? So give this a little shake. I'm just going to take a little blurb just like that. Put this on. That's way too much. And because I'm magnetized now, all I'm going to do is dip. See? Just like that. And once I have that, we're just going to go right into the hole here. And tighten it down. Same thing, hand tight, 1/8. That's 1. Good to go. Now we just got to do the other side. Same thing. Take it, put it on the tool. I'm going to dip just like that. Okay. And straight into the hole. Perfect. Love it when a plan comes together. Good. All right. Easy breezy, as I always say. Nothing like putting in an optic that gives you no trouble whatsoever. Okay, perfect. We'll put all that stuff aside. Put that aside. Don't need any of that. Don't need this anymore. I usually keep my fiber optics, again, something else I keep in the range bag. Put that over there. Okay. And then just go in with a rag, clean up any leftover Loctite that you have as it's come up. It always does just a tiny bit. So, you know, just give that a little clean. Just dab it in there, comes right off. Okay. Beautiful optic. All right, look at her, huh? Doesn't she look good? Woo-wee! That's looking like a combat slide right there. And I really love the fact that Brownells is continuing to design and improve on their original design with window cuts, right? I mean, that looks just great. And so, you know, big ups to them continuing to push the envelope on what you can send us for really good cost. All right, this looks great. So now all we have to do, I got to clean this up and we got to get ready to oil our stuff, put it together. Okay. All right, we got our recoil spring back, we got our barrel back. Okay, remember this has been soaking in the ballast oil the whole time, and I just looked down at my timer and we're at an hour in this video, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and put an index in so you can skip to whatever piece that you want. Okay, with the slide and lubricating the slide, there's 4 spots that we're going to hit with the slide. Okay, the first spot is going to be, well, I'll call them 1, 2. The first 2 is going to be right in the channel where we're coming along our rails. Okay, a lot of times I see posts and people are like, well, I just put my slide together, I put it on the frame and it's real sticky. Okay, and somebody will always comment, oh, all you got to do is rack it 400 times. Okay, yeah, that's true. Metal on metal eventually will wear down. Okay, but the first question I always ask, well, it's sticking, I gotcha. And yes, you probably have to break it in, but did you oil in your channel of your slide, right? To give it some lubrication. You know, maybe you don't have to do it 450 times. Maybe you only have to do it 10 times, okay? But anyway, for pure lubrication of a slide, we're going to come into these channels here. I'm going to show you how to get the whole channel. We're going to put, one drop here, one drop in this side. We're going to put one drop right under the hood of the barrel, so as that slide comes over our barrel, it's got really nice action in here. And then we're going to put one right back here, so we have all of that action coming back over our trigger housing that is holding our connector for our reset. Okay, so we're going to put one drop right there, and that's it. No other lubrication for a Glock slide. Okay, so all you got to do is just get whatever lubrication you're going to use, whatever oil you're going to use. I'm going to have some patches here, and I have my old NRA credit card, which this is all it's good for now, is oiling my slides. Okay, and basically what we're going to do first is we're going to do the channel. So drop on this side, drop on this side, and then what I do is I take the credit card, I wrap a patch in it, like so. Okay, and then I just pull that oil all the way down that channel so it's perfectly in there, nice and oiled. Okay, so you take your oil, little bead right in there just like that. Okay, one on one side, one on the other. And while I'm here, remember that we're going to do one spot right here. Okay, so I'm going to do that spot also just while I'm up here. Okay, just come down. If you have a little needle to do it, that's great too. All right, and then we just take our patch and we're going to run them down the channel. Pretty simple. Okay, and the credit card fits perfectly in there, just like so. And I just drag that oil all the way down on either side. Perfect. Okay. Adjust it. Get the front of it right in there. Pull the oil in on either side. Great. Okay. Pretty simple, pretty easy. All right. And then the last thing you need to do is just put one drop right there on the hood. That's it. Okay. So I usually just drop it like that, and I just kind of rub it in with my finger in there. Make sure we get the whole hood, right? Just like that. Perfect. Okay. Now we have a good lube slide. Wipe her down my oily hands. All right. So that's good. Now all we have to do is assemble it. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our barrel here. All right. This one has this thread protector for shipping that they give us. Just undo that. Okay. Your barrel goes in just like so. Okay. Let me flip this around a bit. On a barrel, you have two notches. Okay. One is for assembly and the other is firing. Okay. And so basically, all I do is I take my recoil spring, come in, I push with my thumb, and I seat it into the first notch. Okay. The notch all the way down on the bottom. And then when you rack the slide, it drops into this position, which is the firing position. Okay, that first notch is for assembly only, and then this is the firing position. And there we have it, Freedom Protectors, an outstanding, beautiful, combat looking, ready to go, ready to fire, first time quality slide assembly.